For thousands of years, these words have been whispered in the quiet of dawn and shouted against the roar of storms. The declaration that follows this bond is often misunderstood. "I shall not want" is not a promise of a life without longing or a world stripped of challenge. It is something far more resilient. To say "I shall not want" is to acknowledge that the fundamental architecture of one's existence is already complete. It shifts the gaze from the frantic pursuit of external things, the accumulation of status, the chase for fleeting comfort, to a quiet, internal center. In this state, the heart stops its restless searching. It recognizes that the shepherd has already accounted for the journey. This is not the absence of desire, but the presence of sufficiency. It is a profound state of contentment where the soul is anchored. When the shepherd is the provider, the definition of what is necessary changes. The focus moves from the abundance of the world to the precision of divine care. Fear of the future begins to lose its grip, replaced by the steady, rhythmic trust that everything required for the journey is already being supplied. The weight of striving falls away, leaving behind a heart that is finally, truly at rest. With the heart anchored in trust, the shepherd begins to move, and the landscape of the journey shifts. He leads the flock away from the jagged, sun-scorched terrain toward green pastures. This is not merely a change of scenery, it is an intentional act of nourishment. The grass is deep, cool, and abundant, offering a place where the weary can finally stop, graze, and recover their strength. The shepherd knows exactly where the soul can thrive, guiding it to places of growth that the individual could never find on their own. Beyond the pastures, he leads them to still waters. In a world that often feels like a rushing, turbulent river, these waters are a sanctuary of profound calm. They are not stagnant, but tranquil, providing a mirror for the soul to see itself clearly again. Here, the frantic pace of life slows to a halt. The shepherd watches as the sheep drink, knowing that this is where the healing happens. He restores the soul, mending the invisible fractures caused by stress, grief, and the relentless demands of the world. The restoration at the water's edge is not the end of the journey, but the preparation for the path ahead. Once the soul is renewed, the shepherd rises, and the movement begins again. He leads his own onto paths of righteousness. This is a deliberate shift from the quiet sanctuary of the pasture to the purposeful terrain of the road. These are not arbitrary trails, but routes chosen for their integrity, justice, and clarity. The shepherd does not merely offer solace. He provides a compass for the character. He directs the feet toward what is inherently right, ensuring that every step taken is a step in alignment with truth. This guidance is a constant, steadying force that shapes the traveler, turning the aimless wanderer into one who walks with intention. The reason for this specific direction is found in the phrase, "for his name's sake." This is the anchor of the entire journey. The shepherd does not lead because the sheep have earned the right to be guided, nor because they are always capable of finding the way on their own. He leads because it is his nature to be faithful. Every turn in the road, every decision to move forward, is a testament to a promise that cannot be broken. The path of righteousness does not always lead to sun-drenched plains. The terrain begins to change, narrowing into a jagged, steep-walled canyon, where the sky is reduced to a thin gray ribbon far above. This is the valley of the shadow of death. The air here is thin, cold, and carries the scent of damp stone and decay. The vibrant life of the pastures is gone, replaced by silence that feels heavy and expectant. Every step forward requires more effort as the ground becomes uneven, littered with loose shale and sharp, protruding rock. The light that once guided the way is swallowed by the towering cliffs, casting long, distorted shapes across the path. Fear begins to manifest, not as a thought, but as a physical weight, a tightening in the chest, and a sudden, sharp alertness to every sound that echoes off the canyon walls. The shepherd continues to move forward, but the environment around him has shifted into a place of intense, suffocating uncertainty. The familiar warmth is replaced by a biting chill that cuts through the stillness. This is a place of profound loss and overwhelming darkness, where the path ahead disappears into the gloom. The darkness in the valley is not merely an absence of light. It is a physical weight that presses against the skin. It feels like a closing trap, where every shadow holds the potential for collapse. Yet, in this suffocating depth, a voice breaks the silence. It is a declaration, clear and absolute. I will fear no evil. This is not a denial of the surrounding peril, but a refusal to let the shadows dictate the outcome. The transformation is instantaneous. The fear that had been tightening the chest begins to lose its grip, replaced by the steady, rhythmic sound of a wooden staff striking the stone floor. The shepherd is not a distant observer. He is here. He moves to the edge of the path, his body a barrier between the flock and the encroaching gloom. He raises the rod, a tool of defense that cuts through the uncertainty. The air shifts as he stands firm, his presence acting as a beacon that forces the darkness to recede. The rod and staff are not symbols of comfort alone. They are instruments of authority, wielded with precision to clear the way and ward off whatever lurks in the periphery. With every movement of the shepherd, the path becomes defined once more. The shadows remain, but they no longer dominate. The fear is gone, replaced by the solid, undeniable truth. The shadows of the valley do not dissipate. They are transformed. Where there was once only the threat of the unknown, a table now stands, solid and laden with sustenance. It is a striking sight, a feast laid out in the very heart of the hostile territory, in the direct view of those who sought to destroy. The enemies remain, their presence a silent, impotent witness to a provision they cannot touch or diminish. The shepherd moves to the head of the table, his hands steady as he pours. He takes the oil, a substance of healing and honor, and pours it over the head of the one he protects. The scent of the oil fills the air, masking the cold, damp smell of the canyon with something rich, fragrant, and permanent. This is not a temporary reprieve. It is a coronation of safety. He lifts a cup, and as he fills it, the liquid rises to the brim and spills over, splashing onto the ground in a display of reckless, boundless generosity. There is no scarcity here. The cup does not merely hold enough. It overflows, a physical testament to a grace that exceeds every need. The fear that once defined the valley is now entirely eclipsed by the reality of this abundance. The table stands as an anchor, a place of rest and triumph. The table remains, but the journey continues. The path ahead is no longer a mystery, nor is it a source of dread. It is now defined by a new, persistent reality. Goodness and mercy are no longer distant concepts, but active, moving forces. They follow. They do not merely wait at the destination. They walk the path alongside, closing the distance between the traveler and the horizon. Every step taken is now marked by this constant pursuit. Goodness, in its inherent generosity, clears the debris from the road, while mercy, with its deep, restorative compassion, smooths the rough edges of the past. There is a profound shift in the rhythm of the walk. The frantic pace of the search for safety has slowed to a steady, confident stride. This is not a temporary escort, but a lifelong guarantee. It is an anchor that holds fast, regardless of how the landscape changes or how the winds of circumstance shift. The traveler turns, and the presence is undeniable. It is a steady hand on the shoulder, a quiet assurance that the path is secure. This is the promise that holds the future. The road eventually reaches its end, yet the movement does not cease. It simply changes form. The long trek through valleys and over plains, under the watch of goodness and mercy, arrives at a threshold that has been waiting since the beginning. This is not merely a stopping point, but the arrival at a destination that defines the entire journey. The traveler pauses, setting down the weight of the years, the fatigue of the climb, and the remnants of past struggles. There is a profound silence here, a stillness that is not empty, but full. The house of the Lord stands open, a structure built of light and absolute belonging. To dwell here is to move from the temporary to the eternal. It is the final, triumphant resolution of every longing, every prayer, and every step taken in faith. The walls are not barriers, but boundaries of perfect peace. Inside, the air is clear, the light is constant, and the heart finally finds the rest it has sought through every season of life. There's no more searching for the path, no more fear of the shadows, and no more need for the rod or the staff. The shepherd is here, not just as a guide, but as the host of an eternal home. This is the ultimate promise, a life that does not fade, a presence that does not leave, and a belonging that is never shaken. The journey that began in the uncertainty of the woods has culminated in the certainty of this sanctuary. Here, the soul is home. It is a permanent state, a final anchor in the vastness of existence, where the promise of forever is not a distant hope, but a present, living reality.